This is the Build Your Own Brandcast. I'm your host, Mike Purtle, with a reminder that we all have a brand. This is the show where we bring elite voices to the mic to broadcast the experiences and perspectives that can help us take our brands, businesses, and life to the next level. Thank you for lending us your ears. All right, welcome back to the Build Your Own Brandcast. This is Mike Purtle, and today I have Mr. Adam Hudson. He's an international entrepreneur, currently running an Amazon business. I know that you've been active in a couple of different lanes, which we'll definitely, ask just to understand where you came from. But I know that today, Mr. Hudson has taught over 5,000 people in over 30 countries how to achieve over $130 million with a side hustle Amazon business. And I know I have a lot of hustlers out there following my show. So hopefully this will be a show where we can learn how to hustle a lot smarter.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I know right now you're running an Amazon business, but can you kind of give us the time warp through your history with entrepreneurship, when you got started? I know that you're an international entrepreneur as well. So if you could just kind of take us on that journey real quick, I think it would be really great.
Absolutely. So first of all, thanks for having me on the show. I super appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your amazing audience of budding entrepreneurs. It's going to be an awesome show. Look, I'm 45 years old today, and I started my entrepreneurial journey when I was probably 17 or 18. I knew early on I wanted to have agency over my own life. Like most people are listening today, I'm sure they want to make their own choices and be a shot caller in their own decisions. And I started off with Amway. It was the first thing somebody showed me, a way to make money that wasn't a job. And I was like, great, I'm all in. And I bought the books, and I started reading Tony Robbins, and that was the best thing I got from Amway, is the habit of reading. Mm-hmm. And then over the years, I tried all kinds of things. I have owned probably, I think, 17 or 18 different companies in 25 years. And mostly I've failed at what I've done. Now, when I say failed, it doesn't mean I went down in burning flames. It just never really took off, Mm-hmm. I spent a lot of time just with very average results, and hidden in those average results are the lessons that you need to become a great entrepreneur. That's really the only way to learn these things, is to be out there in the field. So I've owned everything from a flight simulation company where I own like 747 flight simulators, to hairdressing salons, to I had an animation company in Hollywood, California for four years, which I sold. It was one of my successful businesses. So I've had a whole range of businesses, and lots of ups and lots of downs. And really it's been in the last 7 or 8 years of my journey that it sort of has all come together.
Yeah. So, that concept of pivoting and not being so emotionally attached to, whatever it is that you're doing is something that a lot of people have to get over. I'm sure that, of course, being in that you say you're a reader, and so having that moving mindset and not getting stuck into a state of inertia, and always keeping your mind moving on progress and focused on progress, I think is something that can help people to not get too sticky on whatever it is that they're doing. I know I have a couple of key topics here for us to talk about. And one of them is the fact that most people actually desire this big operational business. They're like, oh, I'm going to be, CEO. I got 50, I want 50, 150 employees and this and that. And how are you going to do that? I'm going to do it selling hair. And I'm like, okay, but logistically, have you considered the path to get there? What does that look like? And something that I think a lot of people, especially some of my older clients, the thing that I'll see is, okay, you focused on getting to the top of this ladder, but then once you got there, you're like, this is not on the right wall, or this ladder is not nearly as high as I thought it was going to be. What do you think are some areas of a business that people should consider when thinking about, is this the right thing for me?
Yeah, look, that's a really great point, Mike. And I could not agree with you more. As when you peel the onion back on why people want these things, you say, well, why do you want that? Why do you want that? Why do you want that? And you keep digging. Eventually it comes down to one simple word, and that word is happiness. That's it. They want to be happier. They want to have, they think they're going to get the Ferrari, which is going to get them either the happiness directly, or they think it's going to get them the pretty girl that's going to give them the happiness, or whatever. But the happiness is at the core of, and maybe freedom as well. Sort of, they're the two sort of themes I find when I unpack an entrepreneur's why, you know, and it's really simple, you know, like I have a multi 8-figure business today across my group of companies. I have 5 companies. And I still only need about $250,000 to $300,000 a year to live my dream life. And that's net of tax, right? So, but I own my own home. I don't have any debt anymore and any of that. The goalposts are actually a lot closer than what people put them these days. And I think social media and the media generally is very polarizing, especially for young people. So the Fast Company is never going to put a guy on the front cover who's got a $5 million net worth and $500,000 a year coming in passively from a stress-free business. It's right. That guy's never going to be there. It's going to be Mark Zuckerberg. It's going to be the founder of Instagram. So everybody's like, that's what I want. And you're like, dude, have you actually stopped and figured out, like, if you had $2 million free cash that you could go and buy your house with, have you looked through a $2 million house and felt what that would be like to own? And then have you really stopped to consider what you could do with $10,000 a week in cash flow if you had it in a consistent basis with no debt? With no debt, you own your home. And it's insane. Like, you can't spend the money unless you've like got a serious drug problem, or, you know, you're good. And so I think people forget this, you know, and young people put so much pressure on themselves to be Mark Zuckerberg. And Mark Zuckerberg's the unicorn of unicorns, you know. You can have an amazing, amazing life if you get your mental priorities sorted out and your values sorted out, and work towards those with a little bit of discipline. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to be a hard road, but it's not going to be as hard as trying to be a multi-billionaire, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that an issue that I've ran into just in my life is not celebrating, you know, my small successes. Almost to the point to where I also didn't celebrate my large successes. I'm still working on that today, but really identifying the fact that if progress, I have a theme, or just something I like to say, that progress is the prerogative, like progress, the prerogative. And if you're making those progressive steps, that's success. Success isn't like some destination that you end up arriving at and you're like, yes, we IPO'd. Like, no, you got to consider the path.
The path is the reward. Honestly, I'm a little older than you, looking at you down the lens, I think. And if you're an entrepreneur and you stick around as long as I have, you start to see some of your friends in the latter part of that entrepreneurial journey, and you start to achieve things that once upon a time you just went, oh my goodness, if that could ever happen. Like, I had a friend recently sell his company for $130 million in cash. And I went and saw him on the day it settled, and saw him the next day. And I've done a couple of exits myself as well, not $130 million ones, but pretty good ones. But nothing really changes. You get a check, you put it in the bank, and all that happens is you just have more zeros in a digital universe. It doesn't change you. You might go buy a Ferrari, but trust me, 3 months later, that Ferrari is just another car to you. You know, as they say, a Ferrari is only as good as the third lease payment, and after that, it's just a lease payment. You know, so it doesn't fund it if you haven't done the work, if you haven't done the journey, if you haven't focused on becoming a better person, which you do now. The money isn't going to change that. It's probably just going to magnify your personality. So and like you said, you'll end up losing it. You won't be able to hang on to it. Yeah, the journey's everything, Mike. You're 100% correct. For sure. So, okay, let's talk about your journey in retail and in e-commerce. I know that, drop shipping is huge now, and a lot of people are doing drop shipping.
but they're not really looking at it as a sustainable business. You know, one of the things that I work on with my clients is actually creating a plan to a defensible and sustainable business. And with dropshipping, you're really, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but you do lose some control over like how that thing is delivered. Personally, you know, I drop ship. I won't say the name of the company, Printful, but but a friend of mine ordered a shirt off my store, and he gets it in, and it's got just like hate propaganda on my stuff with my tag on the back. And I'm like, you know, I'm a brand guy. Like, I'm all about intellectual property, and it's important for people to be a little bit more strategic. Maybe you might need to invest a little bit more up front, but it's a lot more rewarding when you know that you own a system and you're not depending on someone else. So I wanted to kind of ask you about the system of Amazon. You know, why did you decide to get into that? I know you were running, or I believe you were running a successful agency in LA at the time, right?
I was, yeah.
And you started doing this on the side.
That's correct. Yeah, I had an animation company in Hollywood, which I started, and it did really well, and I sold it. But it's a really interesting view that you have, Mike, and I agree with it. Again, you're dead on. So I always say to young entrepreneurs, if you're gonna be an entrepreneur, you have to get paid 3 times. Okay, so the first one you have to get paid in your business is for your time, right? So you have to be paid for your time, which is what you're putting in. The second way is you need to be paid profit. So you have a company, you draw a salary or a wage, which is a market wage for what you're doing, right? So if you're working really hard, you might draw 100, 150 grand a year or whatever the market wage is. And that's, so that's your time, then your profit. So after the wage has been drawn at the end of the year, at the end of the quarter, there should be surplus funds. And those surplus funds are your reward for the risk, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can go and get a job and get paid. So the dividends are your reward for the risk. And then the third way is equity. So the problem with drop shipping is you're not really building that much equity because you don't really own anything. T-shirt business is a little bit different because if you're making the designs and those designs are coming from you and you own the designs, and people associate these really cool designs with your brand and you own that intellectual property. But if you don't have control over the designs, you're just drop shipping other people's stuff, you don't have any equity building because your whole business is dependent on those other parties available. So that equity piece is really how you get rich. You know, it's really how you, wake up one day and go, oh, wow, this company I've been building, like I have a software business that didn't make any money for the first 2.5 years because SaaS software is a slow, hard build. You lose money for months, probably a couple of years before you break even because it might cost you 200 grand in coding to build a site that people are paying $50 a month for. So it takes a while for it to go losing, break even, making.
Right.
But, now that company is probably worth, 10 million, something like that over 3 years. So that's the equity piece that happens in the background. And in the meantime, yes, there are subscriptions coming in and eventually it breaks even and then makes money, but you never really make money out of the money it's making. It's when the asset's built. So right. I chose Amazon for a few reasons. First of all is that I own the brand and the products. So I actually buy the physical products from manufacturers in China who package it into my own branded packaging. So I own the inventory, I own the designs, I own the whole thing. And then I ship them directly into Amazon's fulfillment centers. So I don't actually touch my own inventory. It goes into their fulfillment centers, but I have control over that inventory. I own that inventory. I'm the only one selling that brand because it's my brand. It's trademarked to me and so on. Now, it is more expensive. I did a podcast interview yesterday and somebody said, so what can my viewers do to, get started for a couple of grand? I said, they can go drive Ubers for another 6 months because you can't get started in any real business for $2 grand. Mm-hmm. Like, we have to put our big boy pants on and be realistic. We're starting a business. Just a trademark will cost you $2 grand if you need an attorney, right. So you need to invest in yourself. You need to back yourself and be patient and realize there is risk. And that's the jungle. And these days, everybody's trying to build an empire in their underpants with no money. Yeah. And You know, there needs to be some money. There needs to be some investment in experts to help you if you're serious. But nobody wants to go and work for a year and save up, you know, driving Uber to save 20 or 30 grand and go, right, this is my starting nut. And now you're actually in the game, you know. It's really tough.
Yeah, and that's huge, like being really having that foresight and being willing to do things that you may not necessarily want to do, but as long as you know why you're doing them, you're going to be able to draw out whatever resource you need to get to your goal, you know. Just being intentional about it. There's nothing that's not taking a step back. That's just finding a foothold for your next step forward.
In LA, I mean, that's what I love about LA is everybody's doing that. You know, everybody's driving Ubers, waiting tables for a dream, for a specific thing they're trying to accomplish. And it's easy to poke fun at them and say, oh, all these wannabe actors, LA, where they shoot too many movies and not enough actors. That kind of thing is just a running joke. But at the end of the day, what I love about the city is that it's a hustle and people are trying to achieve something. Now, most of them fail, but I love the passion and I love the commitment that they make to it. You know, they live horrible lives in a horrible city in pursuit of their dream.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, going along with that, because it's definitely about the environment that you're in, you know, that's going to kind of fuel where your head is at. How important is it for you to surround yourself with other people that are also doing that? Or do you think that it's kind of more important for you to just incubate and figure out, you know, how you want to go about that alone?
Human beings are social creatures. There's no doubt about it. And we do better in groups. I recently did a speaking tour with Robert Kiyosaki, and Robert said, you know, that the rich work in teams, and as humans we should as well. So Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill said masterminds is something that they did way back in the early 1900s. These great titans of industry would go away hunting and camping together. So I've been in masterminds now for over 20 years. And so these are just groups of dudes, really, sometimes girls in there as well, but just people who are on the same path. We started one in LA called Radius, and we basically just got together every month. There was no agenda. You just had to be in business as a dude in business and not a dickhead. And that was basically the qualifiers. And so there was no like self-importance of people. There was no like gurus. There was just guys that were hustling in their own business, trying to get ahead. And that mastermind is still going now. And, you know, we've watched each other build. You know, one guy, you know, sold out for 25 million. Another guy listed his company for 100 million. And we all just got to LA together in 2011, and we were all just starting out. But we met every month. We supported each other, and every month we did social things. It's really important because if you're a real entrepreneur, like a real entrepreneur, not everybody understands the mind of an entrepreneur and understands their passion for freedom and so on. So you've got to get around people that are going to support you, because it is going to be hard. Most of the time you're going to be failing and you're going to be in that learning phase. It's not until you grow a little and get older and have been kicked in the teeth enough times that you learn the really hard lessons. They're probably written in books by, you know, From Good to Great by Jim Collins and The One Thing and, you know, Tony Robbins and all these amazing, amazing books, and you can read them all. But until it's happened to you, the internal architecture is not actually there. And then when it's happened to you and you've really been tested, that's where the internal architecture and the authentic strength, not the pretend strength, comes from.
Yeah, and that's huge. And you've got to build that muscle memory as well. You know, when you're going to the gym and you're trying to really push yourself to failure, you may go to the gym and work out, but if you're going to start trying to max out, like, you better have a squatter. Like, it's almost mandatory to have a squatter. It's foolish not to. And so just having that accountability and that support system is huge. You know, the mastermind and Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, that's definitely something that has fueled me for the last 7 years. And so that's exciting to hear you talk about that. This is the second conversation in a row that book has came up. So if you're listening to this show and you haven't got it yet, that's your problem. You literally could like tweet me and I'll send you a PDF. You need to get on this.
Yeah.
So what about when it comes to, so this is investing into your network, right? And who you are as a person. A big aspect that I promote is that you have to be your own brand, right? Of course, we're all building our brand. We're looking to build a product or a service, but I understand that just that any business, all a brand is just people, right? And how people understand each other. And something that I also commonly see is, right, we've got a hustle mindset. And because of that mindset, it's like, I have an idea, I'm going to take action, and I'm going to take action immediately. And, you know, the person who preps and does meal prep and eats appropriately and maybe takes a pre-workout and goes into the gym, you know, ready, is always going to outperform the person who just was like, oh, a New Year's resolution, I'm going to go to the gym, right? They're not going to be able to stay in the game long enough, and they're not going to do well enough for the, you know, motivation to even kick in, you know, to see those results. So I want to ask you about investing into your brand as an individual first. And then, because as you become a better individual, it becomes possible for you to build a better business. So after you've built that brand as an individual, then how do you translate that into building better products and better business entities?
Yeah. So look, you know, I've been really fortunate to have a strong personal brand built over the last few years, having done a whole bunch of stuff from done speaking tours with Tony Robbins and Gary Vaynerchuk, and I'm doing a national tour with Gary shortly again, and Grant Cardone, 20,000 people here in Australia. So I've had all that, and people go, how do you do that? And what they want me to say is, you just go and talk to this guy over here who's the agent, and you pitch him and he'll say yes. You know, yeah. Okay, what's the phone number? That's how I get there. But actually, the journey for me getting on those stages, like I was 3 weeks ago on stage with Tony, the journey to getting there started 25 years ago, and it was a 25-year journey. And in the last 5 minutes, I've had all of this, right?
Right.
And so it starts with, like, inevitably a young person says to me, how do I get to be on the stage? And I say, how long have you got, right? Like, so it starts, a personal brand starts with you truly understanding who you are, what your values are, and authentically doing your best to embody those in the way that you show up in life and business. So in our businesses, we have what we call always never lists. So we always do this and we never do this. So there's 5, you know, we try to keep to about 5 things that really epitomize. So when somebody comes and joins the company, we go, here's the 5 things we always do at this company, and here's the 5 things we never do at this company. So really get clear about these. This is the basics of who we are. Like, we have a no asshole policy in our company. We don't assholes. We won't work with assholes. We won't sell our products to assholes. We interview all of our customers, and if we think they're an asshole, we'll refund them. So, yeah. You know, we left $2 million of refunds last year to people that either didn't have the money to do what we were about to teach them, or were just an asshole. So we invest $2 million a year into maintaining our values as a company. So when it comes to creating a brand,
hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you basically $2 million in refunds, but you referred to it as an investment.
Yes, these are proactive refunds. This is not where the customer said, I want a refund. This is where we're one of the few, we learned this from Ramit Sethi, actually, where we actually interview everybody who buys our course. We do a 30-minute interview with them. And then if they don't have enough money to actually start an Amazon business, we say, look, here's your money back for the course. Come back in 6 months when you've got some money, because you've just spent this money. You can't do anything with what we're going to teach you because you have no more money. Yeah. So we don't want to set you backwards.
That is one of the most ethical things I have had anybody ever say to me.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, they come back 6 months later, all fired up with 2 friends who heard about what we did, and so we get 3 customers instead of 1, and but they're just flawed, and the reputation spreads that these guys are not just trying to grab everybody's money. And the only reason you wouldn't do that is because you believe there's a lack of money in the world, which there isn't. And you know, so we do that, and then we do refund people that ring up and said, I've paid for the course now, you better help me. If you don't help me, I'm going to be asking for a refund. And we'll say, listen, buddy, don't worry about all that. We are going to give you a refund. You're not right for us. Thank you for coming, Yeah. So because life's too short. When you get older, your ability to sort of put up with stuff like that just diminishes, you know.
Yeah.
That book, Zero F's Given, you know, we only have so many F's to give in our life. And as we get older, we slow down the giving out of them.
Yeah.
So, you know, we talk about vision, standards, recruitment in our business. It's a mantra. So with all of my, I'm not a CEO anymore. I don't want to be a CEO. I'm the founder and sometimes investor, and I have a business partner. But we say, guys, your job as a CEO is to set the vision for the company. So what is the compelling vision that's going to inspire our customers, our students, our stakeholders, our employees? So what's the vision? What do the standards look like? So what are the standards that we are committing to in all the levels? And then we have to recruit to that standard. And so, for example, in our education business, from day one, with every course we sold, we did a microloan through Kiva to an entrepreneur in a third world country. So we did it from the very first day when we had no money. So we said, all right, we're going to take X amount of money, we're going to do an interest-free loan to a poor person in a third world country. And now we've done about 8,000 interest-free loans out there in the market right now that are being paid back. And then about a year into the business, we started making donations to cure blindness. In Indonesia, there are 4 million people that are needlessly blind through cataract. And I saw a documentary on it flying from Singapore to LA one day, and it just moved me to tears. These two little girls that were sisters, and they were blind, and they got this operation. They could see their parents for the first time. So I said, I want to do that. And then today we, at our last student 3-day event, we went to raise money, and the students put in $180,000 towards a new mobile hospital, like on a truck. They're a mobile surgery. We needed $265,000. So the students put in $180,000 over the 3-day event, donations. And then my business partner, Joe, and I put in the other 80 grand ourselves. And the company, the charity CEO was there, and we gave him a check for $265,000. So that's compelling vision.
Mm-hmm.
That we want our business to be about teaching entrepreneurs not just how to make money on Amazon, and they've now done $500 million. That $150 million stat is old. Our students have done $500 million on Amazon. But the bigger story is we're compelling them and we're inspiring them to be social entrepreneurs, so that when you become successful, that you give back. Because if you give back, you get what you really started for, which is happiness. Because happiness comes from gratitude. It comes from giving. So we've created this incredibly compelling vision. And so we attract incredible staff who are fully vested in our brand, and our customers are fully invested in our mission. And it's just a totally different approach to business.
That's outstanding. And I think a note for everybody to really pay attention to is, it's not bad to put the time in now to get to a place to where, while you're on a flight, you see something that moves you and you're able to take action on it. It's really the ability to love more fully when you put yourself in position to even be able to execute on those things. And so it's really about understanding, and your relationship with money changes when you understand that, again, money's not the goal. Money is simply a resource that you have to become a bigger and bigger conduit for, so that you can flow and not necessarily hang on to it, but direct it towards the things that you care about and the things that are going to help others. It's really a responsibility that we have.
Yeah, look, it's funny. I don't want to go too woo-woo and spiritual, but I think there is some kind of energy out there that recognizes who good custodians of money are. And if you prove that you're a good custodian of money, then it tends to flow towards you. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to be needy, like if you're kind of when you get a new friend who's super clingy and like desperate and like, then you don't want to be around them because they're kind of like freaking you out. Yeah. But if they're like super relaxed around you and open and flowing, it's much easier to be around. Money's a bit the same. So.
Yeah. Money is definitely injury. It's barely a real, that's one thing I learned from Kiyosaki. I met him twice, once in Miami, and then once a year later in Amsterdam. Actually, I was in the Air Force stationed over in Germany. doing satellite communications, and I connected with a group out there he was working with off of a Facebook ad back when Facebook ads were first starting. This was like 2013.
Wow.
Drove 3 hours to Stuttgart, connected with this group. They're like, hey, we're going to Amsterdam tomorrow. I'm like, I call off work. I'm like, I'm out, you know. I rode out there and met him there. But one of the things that really opened my eyes, just in like interacting with him, was money's not real. It's a concept.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a lot of people have a fear or love or any of those things of money. Money's not even real.
Mm.
You know, for the most part, you know, fiat currency, all of these things, when you factor it in, money is just an understanding of value. And and like you said, if you become a valuable person, money's going to understand you a little bit better.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's it.
You know, just to kind of close this conversation, I definitely want to be respectful of your time. And I think we set aside about 40 minutes today, but I just want to look at, you know, we've talked about happiness, and you want to look at, you know, the pursuit of happiness. Ultimately, when you're growing your business, if it's the right business for you, you're growing an engine that you're going to be able to be happy driving. And I think a lot of people, especially in my generation, have become discontent with the climate in America. Like I've literally seen some of my friends. So I started my business in 2009. This is my 10th year now. And throughout the course of it, I've watched friends graduate from college and get these great degrees. And, you know, this massive wave of depression hit people, and I don't understand why. And for me, I still think that the window of opportunity is wide open. I think it's a lens, and one that some people have, some people don't. What's your lens on opportunity in America? And what would you say to somebody that may be believing, hey, you know, the American dream is dead? I literally saw that on Facebook one day a couple years ago. I'm pretty sure I muted that person.
It's so interesting. You know, I moved to America in 2011, and the climate was quite depressed when I got there. You know, I as an Australian entrepreneur, America is like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, because, you know, we live in a country of 25 million people. You guys live in a country of 320 million people. Mm-hmm. So the opportunity in America is insane. And, you know, I put in my business plan to your government that said, you know, because I didn't want to mess it up, and I had to get a visa. And so I put my visa application in and my business plan for 12 months. And I was conservative because I didn't want to get to the end of the first 12 months when I was going to have to renew. I had to show that I could actually do what I was saying, and then the government would renew my visa. Mm-hmm. So I thought I'd put in my numbers. I don't want to miss the numbers because, you know, I don't want to get kicked out of the country, you know.
Right.
So I put my numbers in, but I had so far underestimated the market that by the third month, I was doing monthly what I'd predicted to do annually. So it was just the country. Now, one thing about Americans is Americans respect hard work. Americans respect hustle, and your culture wants people to be successful. Mm-hmm. In Australia, it's not like that. If you become too successful here, we have a concept called tall poppy syndrome. They will try to cut you down. They do not like it if you become too successful here. So that's why a lot of Australian entrepreneurs, they might be rich, but they're just going to be wearing a T-shirt and a pair of flip-flops because they don't want to stand out. Not like in America, you drive down the street in a Bentley, which I bought one year when I was there in America. People are stopping me at the lights going, congratulations, man. Can I take a photo of your car? Like, Americans love you for it. Here, they would key the car and tell you that you're a dickhead. So America is very, you know, it's very entrepreneurial, very supportive, and it's an incredible. I worked really hard when I was there for 4 or 5 years. That first company made me a millionaire, and from scratch inside of 3 or 4 years. And, you know, America's just an insane, you know, opportunity. Like, entrepreneurs all around the world want to do business in America. And I watch Americans and they're like, oh man, it's hard and things are tough. And I'm like, dude, like,
don't believe in themselves to even invest, like you said, $2,000. Like just like $2,000. Just invest. That's a mustard seed. That's a real mustard seed, and it's it's kind of hard to pull someone's leg over that versus blindly going into a program that they're gonna accumulate 50 times that in debt. And it's just a matter of belief. Do you think that it's that just seeing it in person inspired you, or just seeing like the amount of activity that was going, or what was it, or what is it that makes it so clear to you? I mean, it's clear to me just because I read a lot.
You mean America, why it's such a good opportunity?
Yeah,
it's just the numbers.
The
numbers. You guys have 320 million people in a first world country. Entrepreneurship, like somebody put it plainly to me 20 years ago, you want to be a millionaire? I'm like, yes. He goes, where's the $1 million that you need to be a millionaire? And I said, I don't know. He said, well, it's in other people's pockets. That's where it is.
Right.
And your job as an entrepreneur is to get it from their pockets to your pockets. That's what it is. So unless you're going to hold up a bank, you need to provide value to these people in such a way that they're going to go, here's my money. And you need to keep doing that to have $1 million. That's how you become a millionaire.
So it's just it's just a lot of pockets.
There's a lot of pockets. And look, Americans are people, and honestly, right now, I just see a lot of lazy people. I'm like, people don't really want to, like, the skill. If there's one thing I could teach to entrepreneurs right now, it's not about copying. Like India and China are turning out millions of people with PhD degrees, right, every year. So they're turning out these people with degrees out of universities, and their education is now as good or better than America. Right. And America is not first in the world anymore. No, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you don't have the best education in the world. You don't have the best healthcare in the world. And the power is shifting. And I love America. I'm just telling you straight, right? The power is shifting. So if you want to survive, and Australia's the same, by the way, we're the same. We have a small country with the Chinese right above us and the Indonesian, 250 million people, 1.5 billion people, India right above us. If I had kids today, which I don't, I'd be saying, here's what you need to know. You need to be like Steve Jobs. Imagine, as Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. So knowledge is what you learn at school. But if Steve Jobs imagined a better computer, he was creative. He solved problems that people hadn't even thought about. Whereas the average person is just trying to buy a template and copy what everybody else is doing instead of thinking just a little bit differently. How can I create value in that space and do something different? How can I be the purple cow, as Seth Godin puts it, in the industry that I'm going into? If you see a field full of cows, but one of them's bright purple, that purple cow is going to catch your attention. Right. So that comes down to the softer skills of creativity and art and imagination. And not many people are talking about that.
Yeah, that's
the way the world's shifting. That's where we got to be.
I love that. Within that imagination and innovation is really where, again, progress is. If you're just repeating 100%. What somebody else is doing, you're not creating progress. And it might be value. And that's key. Right. Is creating that value. And it's not going to be the easiest thing because you got to, I spoke about this on a previous show, but our consciousness is so fragmented. I look at, my peers, and we can't be sitting around for longer than 30 seconds before you're like scrolling on Instagram. Like, how much value are you really going to get out of jumping into that phone for 3 to 4 flicks of your finger versus just being fully here, conscious, activated in what's going on? That's really how you can even see the future, is to fully be in the present. So I love that you shared that. I want to do a quick lightning round with you to wrap this thing up. Just some quick questions that I like to ask most people that I speak with. And the first one is, what's your favorite quote? Do you have a favorite quote or a mantra or a word that you live by?
Look, there's plenty. I'll give you one in the theme of happiness. Gratitude is the shortest route to happiness. So yeah, wake in the morning, count your fingers and your toes. If you have all 10 and you can see, you're winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's great. And when you're winning, you could keep winning.
Exactly.
That's all we do out here. What is one what is one character trait that you believe is very important? My brand, a mantra that we like to go by is be elite. You know, we have a mastermind called the Elite Coalition, and I think people have disassociated themselves with the elite. But what I found is that the center of the word is the letter I. And if you're sure about who you are and who you're going to be, then you open up the opportunity to be elite. And so what are some different characteristic traits, or what's a character trait that you really focus on? I'm going to make sure that I'm this every single day.
This one will be a little different for you to think about, but I really believe one of the strongest character traits today is vulnerability. So in the past, we've been, as men, taught to be strong, to be a lion, you know. But these days, you know, I think vulnerability, because people are seeking authentic connection through brands. They're seeking authentic connection through social media. We're sick of like the perfectly posed bullshit photo of the girl who's spent 3 hours putting her makeup on, or the dude who's posing in front of a Ferrari he doesn't own. You know, what we crave and what we respond to is vulnerability, authenticity. So when somebody truly opens themselves to you in a vulnerable way, you'll find, and if you do that with people, you'll connect with people in a much deeper way.
I love that. Love that. Be vulnerable. Be vulnerable. Cool. And to do that, again, you have to be fully present. You have to. All right. What's a book that you recommend? I know you had mentioned several earlier. What's a book that you would recommend people go grab right now?
A really good book for entrepreneurs, which is not that known, is called The One Thing. It's written by Gary Keller, the founder of Keller Williams Realty. It's not about real estate. It's about life and business and what he's learned in his journey. It's phenomenal. The One Thing.
Love it. Yeah. Earlier when you were saying a couple of different books, that one, you said that one and it actually stood out because I haven't read that. So I'm definitely going to check that out. Last question that I have for you, Mr. Hudson, is, you know, you say you started in business over 25 years ago. If you were to give yourself a piece of advice, maybe coming out of high school or when you were first getting started up, what would that piece of advice be?
It will happen. Just play the long game. It will happen, because so many times it's along the way, you know, you will doubt yourself. You'll have hardship. You'll really go through some tough times. But if you just keep getting up one more time, and this is one of those things that I mentioned, where you read that in a book, you read it on an Instagram meme, winning is getting up one more time than falling down. But to actually live that for 20 years really makes you into someone that's formidable and compassionate and, you know, strong at the same time. So just all of that, you know, total failure, total success, and then failure. And eventually you get to a point where you get success and you keep success, but only because you had it once before and you completely lost it. So It's all part of it. So just stay the long game. Keep believing yourself, and make sure you have some good people to help you through, because survival is actually the name of the game. If you just survive, you'll probably win. Like, you've got to survive. Yeah.
I love that. So ladies and gents, make sure that you commit to the game. Decide what your game is going to be. Make sure that it's in alignment with the life that you want to live, and pursue that life unabatedly. Pursue it relentlessly. Remember that you will get knocked down. You know, be grateful for those times so that when you get to the top, you don't look down at somebody else when they're knocked down. Mr. Hudson, I really do appreciate you for taking out the time to sit with me, sir. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gents, have a good one. Be elite. Excellent. Awesome. Thank you. I really do appreciate that.
Thanks, Mike. You have a great smile, man. I think it was the smile off going on here.
I know you got some good sunlight coming in there. So
this is where I am. Have you ever been down here to Australia? This is where I live.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so glad I didn't stop recording. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with me, sir. Keep winning. Keep winning.
Thanks, man. Take care, mate.
All right.
I love your vibe, dude. Take care. Let me know when it goes up.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
Okay, bye.
This show is sponsored by the Elite Coalition, the world's first brand consortium dedicated to people,
passion, and progress. We are a community of positive, forward-thinking influencers, collectively building towards a conscious culture. Whether you're a student, entrepreneur, or career professional, our society of peer mentors is here to provide awareness of the tools you need to be successful, accountability to your goals, and action-oriented engagement. Join us as we work together to fulfill our individually unique versions of the elite life at www.elitecoalition.com.